Salutations, respected viewers. Here I am on Parliament Square at an anti-democratic rally. You can see these foam-flecked, swivel-eyed fanatics, these extremists. They really are ultra-nationalists with all their European Union flags. They speak as though European nationalism is more moral, more sophisticated than any national nationalism, for want of a better word. Perhaps it's supranationalism. Anyway, the point is, it is just another nationalism. Being a little facetious in what I was saying before, but I don't see how this is morally superior, whereas believing in a nation-state is not. Now, I realise it's a larger unit, but it is still a unit. It still has to have boundaries and a flag and an identity and all the rest of it. So that's their identity. I am a European. I've known that since I was 7. I belong to the European Economic Community, as was. Now I'm a citizen of the European Union. Whether I like it or not, I accept that is the fact. But the United Kingdom is leaving. There you can see there's going to be the big Remain rally here. So many of them are saying that they want a vote on the final Brexit deal. So many of the people here were against a referendum on European Union membership at all. And then they lost it. The Lib Dems way back in 2008 under Nick Clegg were demanding a referendum on EU membership because they smugly thought they could win. Well, despite their many massive advantages, they lost. Despite the great majority of MPs being on their side, most corporations, most think tanks, and really any institution you can name, the Confederation of British Industry, the Bank of England, they lost. Despite misusing taxpayers' money to fund partisan propaganda, they still lost. So it really is a most tremendous victory for ordinary people in this country. To simplify it just a little, it was the rich against the poor. The lower income people tended to vote to leave. Now, other people point out that more educated people tend to vote to remain, but that coincides very strongly with the more affluent people. So people vote for self-interests by and large, and so, put bluntly, the rich were voting to make themselves richer, and the poor were voting to try and have a decent income, because obviously excessive immigration leads to wage compression. Obviously, it's an immensely complex issue, and there are many views in it, and there can be a reasonable Remainer, and there are some leavers who are disreputable, who I don't like being associated with. There are some leavers with rebarbative views, and I may vehemently disagree with them on every issue except one. I want to leave the European Union. So 52% of people voted for Brexit. Hard Brexit, soft Brexit, we don't know. There were two options. There was leave or remain. Nobody's absolutely clear what hard Brexit or soft Brexit is. Nobody's certain what remain is either. Is Albania going to be allowed to join the European Union? Is the European Union going to attack another sovereign state as it did Libya? Yes, that was an EU policy. One has to support that in the spirit of loyalty and solidarity, according to the Treaty of Lisbon. Is the EU going to provoke more conflicts such as in the Ukraine? And I know the EU is not the only guilty party. Is the EU going to bail out more profligate countries such as Greece? Is the EU going to spend tens of billions of euros it's wasting, such as subsidising tobacco in Greece was grown and it's too strong to be sold legally, and on and on and on, and funding all sorts of crazy projects, all sorts of fat cat projects, the massive corruption, the waste, the budgets that haven't been signed off by their own auditors for decades. So there we are, we're going to leave. And then Parliament, well, the EU withdrawal bill was voted for by a majority of over 500 in the House of Commons, also passed by the House of Lords. Even Anna Soubry, a complete Remainer bigot, she voted for that, and in a completely stupid, illogical and hypocritical way, she now wants another vote on leaving. Parliament have its choice. Parliament has expressed its choice. Oh, how about the election? Well, 85% of votes were for people who voted for pro-Brexit party. The Conservatives, Labour were all pro-Brexit in their past election, as indeed was UKIP. But even the Lib Dems are not on principle against Brexit. They just want another referendum on the final deal. And if the deal is disapproved of by the majority, to remain within the European Union. So there we have it. They're hoisted on their own petard, the Lib Dems. For decades they wanted referenda because they lost every election. And they were one of them on the Northern Ireland Peace Agreement. They wanted them on Scottish devolution, on Welsh devolution, on London devolution, on various elected mayors. Labour wanted them on most of these things. They wanted an alternative vote. You name it. They even wanted on the monarchy 20 years ago. Well, they got their referendum and they lost, and they will not accept the result. But even if the Remainers did win in another referendum, why should Leavers accept that result when they didn't accept this one? If we have two, why not 3 or 4 or 5? Well, when does it ever stop? So that's it. So there was a vote on relationship with other European countries in 1975. There wasn't another one for 41 years, so why not vote another 41 years? It's happening. It's a done deal. Brexit has been decided. They lost. Turn the page. Accept that. Be a good loser and try and get the best Brexit deal possible. Get behind Theresa May and do not undermine her. You're weakening her negotiating position. Some people would rather support the European Union, which the UK is leaving, than support the United Kingdom. So they're people of goodwill on both sides. There can be cooperation. It doesn't have to be confrontational. It doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. We can get a workable Brexit deal for both sides. The Irish border, that's going to be tricky. In the Republic of Ireland, 90% of people or so want to remain in the EU. Well, if we choose to do that, there are downsides to being in the EU. If we think the EU is such a many splendid thing, then we have to accept some sacrifices to being in the EU. And if the EU really cared about us in the Irish Republic, they would do everything they could to make it a smooth border, to make some concessions to the United Kingdom. But it doesn't seem likely. So here we are. People are going to come along and say that this referendum for Brexit, the largest vote ever cast in the United Kingdom, should be disregarded, which is obviously absolutely monstrous and outrageous. Business people say that the uncertainty is harming their businesses. And why are people unsure what's happening? Partly because of these ultra-remainers. They're doing everything they can to sabotage the will of the people. It has been decided. Parliament gave the choice to the common people, and the majority decided on something, and obviously that must be implemented. That's what freedom and democracy is. They would rather that they had a Eurocrat dictatorship. And when the EU wins the vote, that's it. The issue is dead for all time. It's the one-way ratchet. Competence ceded to the EU can never, ever be repatriated, which is one of the reasons why it was absolutely crucial that the United Kingdom left whilst it was still possible. There's no question the United Kingdom has the absolute legal right to leave the European Union at any time, as written into the Treaty of Lisbon, which Remainers so strongly supported. So there we are. The UK has exercised its right. Of course, the United Kingdom had the right to remain in the EU, but chose not to do so. So I very much look forward to the United Kingdom leaving the European Union and what happens as soon as possible. I would like a decent Brexit deal. The current one doesn't seem quite acceptable because the UK is going to stay in the single market until such time as all 27 remaining member states approve of a new deal. It'll be very hard to get all 27 on board. So the United Kingdom might have to crash out without a deal. I don't want that to happen, but it's difficult to see how that can be avoidable. Go back to world trade rules, which would be quite tricky. But some people in the EU are obdurate, and indeed there are a few headbangers here in the United Kingdom. So this rally is going to take place, and there will be some anti-democratic politicians demanding that democracy be disregarded just when it doesn't go their way. When issues of national sovereignty are singularly apposite for holding plebiscites on, it should be a plebiscite, not a referendum. It ought to be legally binding. I know that it is not. I don't dispute anybody's right to express Remain views or indeed campaign for their opinion. However, I just point out that it's unethical, it's illogical. We have decided that this is happening. Let's hurry up and do it and be done with the uncertainty and go on and prosper and be free. I believe the United Kingdom will be wealthy in the long run. Could turn out that I'm wrong, but I'm not completely mercenary. I don't worship mammon, and even if I was a lot worse off, I would accept it. It's hurt my finances a lot since I earn in sterling and spend other currencies, and it's been worth every penny.